Here we were in the early stages of a pandemic, something that none of us had ever experienced in our collective lifetime. I knew we'd be back on our feet at some point, but in the interim, I still wanted to speak to audiences, but particularly to assistant principals. Knowing that my social media platform was large and was closely associated with my work, on the first Saturday in May 2020, I launched the virtual AP Leadership Academy. The intent was 18 weeks only, but as many of you know, we are years in with no ending in sight. We are now the AP and New Principals Academy, as many of the assistant principals from the original virtual AP Leadership Academy became principals. If you're new to the platform, welcome. If you're a leadership veteran, this platform continues to be relevant for veterans in principal leadership, assistant principal leadership, and aspiring school leaders. With that said, it's time for today's session. Let's start that over. And we are live. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to week 324 of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. We have Mrs. Yolanda McKinney first up. We got from Texas, we got Dr. or on the YouTube side, Dorothy Jeter 6623, Dot McKeever Jeter, Calumet City, Illinois. We got Chancellor Davis from Chicago over at the Obama Presidential Center. I'm gonna get over there too. Dominique Spiderman. Dominic, that's my man. Hey, what's up, Dominic? We were just together for the past 2 days. Good to see you. Good to see you. We got Grace Castaneda. Grace, I'm gonna say over the quote unquote airways. Thank you. But I'll hit you up privately later on. I'm just kind of almost just kind of getting in almost, right? But yeah. Thank you. But I'll hit you up later. She's I don't know if she's still in Savannah. Yeah, Mona Obamolek, Orlando, Florida. We got Ronald Pugh, Cedar Hill, Texas. Principal Otis Kitchen II. Hey, Otis, I don't know if folks down there in Tampa and Hillsborough specifically were hitting you up, but I was talking about you in Phoenix because there were Hillsborough people there. And I said, I told this young principal, first year principal, going into his first year. He's in a charter school, but he's in Hillsborough. I said, you need to know Otis Kitchen II, right? So his colleagues knew you personally. So they said they're gonna reach out to you. So maybe you know that. Takesha High, Virginia. Lysandra Brackens, North Carolina. Dr. Robin Snowden. She was with us, man, in Savannah, as well as Dominic and Grace. And by the way, happy birthday to Dr. Snowden. It was yesterday. Think about it, y'all. She celebrated her birthday with us at the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele, right? That's big time, man. I feel a deep sense of pride that somebody would spend their birthday at the Institute as opposed to being home, right? So good stuff. Good to see you in Harambe. Where we at? Rodney Richardson, Hampton, Virginia. Constance Sherrard, Pearl, Mississippi. Michael Benton, Cincinnati, Ohio. Stacey L. Joy, Los Angeles, California. We got where we at? We got Keldrick Burke. I think that's the Keldrick that was with us yesterday. Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. We got where we at? Dr. Garcia in the building, Jersey. Passaic, New Jersey. Bobby Stewart. Well, no, Bobby Joe Stewart. I know a Bobby Stewart, but this is Bobby Joe Stewart, right? San Jose, California. Good to see you. Dr. Ella Hicks is in Augusta. Vanessa Zeskin, another fam that was with us down there in Savannah over the past 2 days. Good to see you, Vanessa, right? Dropping all them gems all both days. We got Dr. Melissa Chuno in the building, Tulsa, Oklahoma. Create and Educate's in the building. They were both there. Sheikah and Tammy, Dr. Houston and Dr. Taylor in the building. I even gave them the platform so they could talk, so they could holler at the fam that was in the audience, man. We had a great time, great time, great time. Where we at? September Devon Vance is in the building. We got Dr. Michelle Perkins Griffin, Josh Tovar, Principal Josh Tovar down in Garland, Texas. Good to see you, my brother. Did I say Michelle Perkins Griffin? I think I did. Let's go. We got Kalandra Lightfoot Smith. Good to see you. I think, were you with us yesterday? No, that was a name that was kind of similar to yours. All right. Charlena Hottie, Norfolk, Virginia. I'm getting ready to wind it up, y'all, because I got a lot to talk about with my big time guests here. We got Jasmine Brown Harris. So that's Jasmine Harris is now Jasmine Brown Harrison. Good to see you, man. I see all them posts, Jasmine, man. You continue to do big things. Keep on doing that big work you do. And then on top of that, you get up early, right, to see us on the weekend. So, salute, right? Jacqueline Harriet, another fam that was with us in Savannah, Georgia, man. A lot of y'all were in the building. So, Jacqueline, great to see you. You see my eyes? They like squinted. I got the coffee in me, man. But I'm, I don't know, man. The body is worn out. And I'm on the plane tomorrow. How about that? Oh, God, don't remind me. Where we at? I'm getting ready to shut it down. I'm shutting it down with the queen of the castle, right? It's funny, man. Kimberly Broughton Kafele. It's funny because, I run into different people around the country, and they always reference my wife as the queen of the castle. They don't call her, they don't say her name, like they don't say Mrs. Kafele or everybody says, how's the queen of the castle? That's what people say. I didn't even tell her that. She's hearing this for the first time, but that's what people say all the time. They say, how's the queen of the castle, right? Y'all should see this place, man. She don't like when I do this, but I'm gonna do it. We got like 25 rooms in here, man. Nah, y'all, I'm playing now. I'm just kidding, right? So let me get it started, man. So the rest of y'all, I see you. I'm scrolling, but I got the big time guests, and I want to maximize the time while I'm still awake, right? So let me say formally to everybody, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 324. See, I'm so tired. I had to look at my notes on the number of the AP and New Principals Academy. Hey, man, same two questions. They're going to be relevant as long as I'm doing this platform. The other day I was sitting around thinking, and I said, when might you stop, right? Like when might you get to a point where you said, all right, I've done all I can do? I said, I don't know. I said, let me hit 500. And then we'll see where I'm at. 500. So that's a long way away. So that's a few years from now, right? So we good. I ain't going nowhere, right? So here we go. Hey, y'all, the two questions real quick. What were your wins last week? Right? Even though you're not in school, some of you are, you're in summer school, that type of thing. But I'll still ask the question, what were your wins? Right? What did you win at? Right? Particularly anything in life that may somehow be intertwined with your work. What were your wins? It matters. I preached a whole sermon yesterday on that, right? It's important that we never lose track of our wins. Man, I gotta make sure y'all see that beat, man, because it look like it's saying Brooklyn, right? Yeah, Brooklyn, not the Brooklyn Dodgers, though. The Brooklyn Royal Giants, Negro League team, alternate jersey. Mesh. They didn't wear this. This is some modern thing. But anyway, what were your wins, right? Never lose sight of them. But then that follow-up, what will you do next week to take your game, your leadership to another level of accomplishment? That's important, y'all. That's important. Don't put that off in the summer. Well, I'm not doing anything now. No. Stay focused. Because school will be here just like that, right? And it's not like you're off if you're in administration. Your students might be off, your teachers may be off, but you on. And don't forget what I always say: the leader can turn the switch off. The leader can go to sleep, but the leadership is awake 24/7. Never lose sight of that. The leadership don't sleep. Like I say, I just want to go to a school and see the leadership without having to see the leader. All right. So with that said, let me go through these announcements in my monologue, and then I want to bring up Dr. Woolfolk in a little while. Shout out to Carnegie Learning. They brought me out to do, they're a big conference, but they had a leadership portion of the conference, and they asked me to deliver a keynote address to just the leaders, and we had a good time in there, man. And I know it was some serious discomfort in the room, right? It was, and a lot of them told me later on there was some serious discomfort. And as I tell everybody, for those of you on this platform that really don't know me that well yet, growth mindset yet. I don't go into rooms to inspire. Like if someone feels inspired, then that's just an addition, right? If someone feels motivated, that's just in addition to my purpose for being there. My purpose for being in the room to present that presentation, whether it be a keynote or a full day seminar, right? Whatever it is, my intent is to create discomfort. That's it. I just want to create discomfort. I want folks to they're sitting in the room. They've got particular bad habits. They're accustomed to these bad habits. It's a part of who they are. So then here comes Principal Kafele to say, hold on. And I want what within that hold on, now you sitting there like squirming in your seat, like, ooh, this man, I don't feel comfortable anymore. He's speaking truths that I'm not doing. Right. So I want to just create some tension, some discomfort, some uneasiness. And then you go back to your school and you rectify those areas that need to be rectified. See, if I come in there with a rah and you all, oh my God, he had me feeling great. And then I finish the keynote at let's say 10 o'clock, I'm done for the day. By 3 o'clock, you don't even remember you saw me. It's like life unfolded. But if I could have you sitting in there for an hour or a day, and I can speak discomfort to you, you'll be in aches and pains for the rest of your career. Or at least until you fix it. Right? So that's the way I get down, man. I don't need to be loved. Think of me and get mad, right? That's how I do mine, man. Oh man, friggin' Kafele, man. He said some things I gotta do and I ain't doing them. I'm going around the back way. Nah. I'm gonna pull your butt up and make you do it the right way. Enough said there. So shout out to Carnegie Learning, but also shout out to the School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. My mother's on here. Mom, I'll call you right when I'm done. Right. I know she was expecting a call to talk so we could talk about the Institute, but man, flight was like, man, I ain't land until like 1 o'clock this morning. Right. So I couldn't call that late. Hey, Mom, I'll call you right after I'm done. All right. So, yeah, School Leadership Institute, man. I ain't going to talk long about it, but it was amazing. It was just amazing. Now, I'm not calling myself amazing. I'm talking about them folks sitting in the room. Yeah, most of them are on the academy. They family the academy. So it was family in the room. It was all love in the room. I'm not going to drop names because I'll miss people, right? But it was a lot of our fam who are, and these folks, they're not just family academy. These are friends of mine. These are friends, right? So it was good to spend time. But I got to tell you something, y'all, before I move on. It wasn't just the 9 to 4 that you hear me talk about. 9 to 4, July 9 and 10. I've been a broken record. It was amazing the volume of people who my mother said good. It was amazing the volume of people on the thread. Like I didn't know about this academy, right? Because I posted about the thread, right? I didn't know about it. That's because you ain't listening, right? I mean, I've been talking about this for the whole year, right? On social media and on the platform here on the AP New Principals Academy. So so be with us next year, right? Someone else, which conferences will you be speaking at this summer? I've been telling you for a year. Right? So y'all got to tune in, baby. You got to tune in. So shout out to the School Leadership Institute. But what I was saying was not only the 9 to 4, I told the folks, if you want to rap leadership after hours, meet me in the hotel lobby area around 7. Man, we was in there rapping till 11 p.m. See, it ain't just the 9 to 4. We talk now. We informal. I got my shorts on because I worked out. I'm in the gym. I sweat. I still got sweat on the shirt, right? And we kicking it, man. Talking leadership till 11 at night, right? See, that's what you get out of this, man. It ain't just the 9 to 4, and then I see you later. Yo, you want to talk informally now? Meet me in the lobby. We rap all night long, right? About leadership. So yeah, so that was that. But let me keep going. Welcome to the first timers. If this is in fact your first time, what that translates into is that you've missed 323 sessions, right? But the good thing is you can see the 323 sessions on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, AP and New Principals Academy. AP and New Principals Academy, and binge watch the 323 sessions. I think over 300 guests have been on the platform. So we got a lot of content there, right? A lot of content that I'm extremely proud of, right? Come on and be a part of this. If this is your first time, don't let it be your last, right? So let's see. Let's keep it moving on. By the way, we're at 25,600 subscribers, right? That's a lot of people, right? 25,600 subscribers. So bring me up to 700 today. Just go to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Again, hit the subscribe button. Don't just go to the channel. Hit the subscribe button and be a part of the number. And then you hit that notification bell that pops up when you hit subscribe, and you're informed every time I go live, which is only on this channel, 11 o'clock on Saturday mornings, right? Every Saturday morning. Let's go. As you know, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. The second hour, beginning the first Saturday in September. Every first Saturday is my day. That's a solo day. No guests on first Saturdays, right? That's me. But I'm not going. But I'm only going to talk to you from this side, StreamYard, for an hour. And then at the second hour, we go over to Zoom so that we can talk to each other, right? So you want to be a part of that? Then here, listen to me carefully, because a lot of people ain't listening to me carefully on this one. Go to my AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page. AP and New Principals Academy Facebook page, right? Not the Principal Kafele Facebook page. Please don't go there. If you're not on Facebook and don't have access to the page, then go on whatever platform you're on and just simply say, I'm in, or say, I'm down, and then leave your personal email address, not your work email, because they might have filters and I can't get through. I'm going to know what you mean by I'm in or I'm down, so you don't have to explain, right? I'm going to know. So just say that, and then late August, I'm going to send you the link. Please do not post that link, right? I want to control who's in the discussions. I don't want just anybody in there. I only want people who are serious, people who are down with me, people who are in within this orbit, right? You want to bring some new people in, fine, but we're not bringing people in to be confrontational, debate, trolls, all that kind of stuff. This is just to be an extension of whatever I talk about in my solo session, so that we can now talk about it. And then if there's other things that you may want to talk about, then we can do so, right? Enough said there. The two books that coincide with the platform: What is My Value Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise, and The Assistant Principal 50. The Assistant Principal 50, right? So if you don't have a copy, please get yourself a copy, right? I don't say it for book sales. I'm an author. I'm a published author. Published authors don't make money, right? I get enough money to put maybe a quarter of a tank of gas in the tank, right? Okay. So it's what you get here is just the content. So what is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise, and The Assistant Principal 50. Go to Amazon or go to ascd.org and get yourself a copy. Either one, right? I'm almost done, y'all. Where we at? Hey, y'all, this Tuesday, the 14th, I'll be in Orlando at the National Association of Elementary School Principals, NAESP. I'll be there, right? So I'm doing 2 sessions. If you're going to be at the conference, stop by your brother's room, and I promise you, we got something for you. right? And it'll be content that I haven't done in other conferences, right? So it won't be a repeat. So if you say, "Oh, I seen Kafele do that at ASCD," I seen Kafele, no, I'm bringing something different, right? Right. Then I'll be at SREB on the 15th, the next day in Nashville. Flight guides, please get me to where I need to be, right? So SREB July 15th in Nashville, right? Anybody out there in Clinton, Mississippi, Clinton High School, I'll be with you on Monday. Anyone out there, the leaders out there in Red Clay, Wilmington, Delaware, I see you on Thursday. And folks down in Bradenton, Florida, near Sarasota, I see you on Friday, right? So we got a full week, 5 states. Flight guys, I need you, right? So get me to all them destinations and we'll be good, right? So that's that. Let me go to my monologue, y'all. Let me bring it down to my monologue this morning. My title, my topic. Are you a coach or are you a spectator? Let me give you that again. Are you a coach or are you a spectator? What am I saying? I'm talking instructional leadership on this one. Hear me well. You know, I've said this on this platform multiple times. There's a lot of us in administration, leadership, school leadership, who feel good about ourselves because we get to visit X number of classrooms in a day. So someone may feel, man, I'm getting into 5 classrooms. I'm getting into 6, I'm getting into 7, whatever it is, classrooms. And they'll tell me, because of the work I do, they're definitely going to tell me, right? They'll volunteer it. I don't even have to ask it. They'll volunteer it. Principal Kafele, man, I'm getting into like 5 classrooms a day. And I don't mean the pop-ins. I mean, like they're getting in and they're getting to spend a little time. But I always have the same question for them. I say, that's good. I'm always going to praise you, right? But now I got the hard question. But talk to me about what happened before you entered the classroom. And talk to me about what happened after you left the classroom. See, visiting a classroom, it's a 3-parter. There's that pre-conversation, that pre-observation conversation, then the observation or the visit, and then the post-observation conversation. Now, I am not saying that every time you walk into a classroom, you have to have a conversation prior to. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying when you are in the midst of methodically growing, developing a teacher between the two of you, then there needs to be a conversation about what it is we're growing. Because we're not talking about we're growing the totality of a teacher. We're saying there's a specific skill area that the two of you have deemed this requires improvement. But the two of you agree on that, and that's key. So now you've told the teacher that you're coming by to discuss implementation of the strategies that you talked about, the shift, the adjustment, the change that you talked about in that pre-observation conversation. Notice I said conversation, I didn't say conference, right? So now you go into the room, that's part 2, to see what you discussed, right? So now you're there, you don't have to spend inordinate amounts of time observing it because we're only talking about a skill area. We're talking about pedagogy in a particular area that, again, we deemed needs improvement. So now you observe for whatever amount of time you do. Hopefully it's not a whole block because you're a busy person. Hopefully it's not even the whole period. And now you have a follow-up conversation, post-observation conversation. And that's inclusive of next steps, right? So now here's what I'm saying. If this is missing, which is the pre, and this is missing or absent, which is the post, then your visit to that classroom, you are not an instructional leader. You are not an instructional coach. All you are is a spectator. That's it. You're a fan. as if you went to a basketball game, as if you went to a Broadway play, as if you went to a movie somewhere. You're just a spectator, because as long as no conversation occurred, then you have no impact nor influence as to what happened here. So let me give you a quick example, and then I'm gonna step away from this monologue, which is getting longer than I had planned. While I was in Phoenix Monday and Tuesday, I had a day off on Wednesday. That was a flying day to get to Savannah. So I said, well, since I'm flying and the Phoenix Mercury are home playing the Chicago Sky, let me go to the basketball game, WNBA, women's basketball. So I went to the basketball game and I watched the game. And at no point did I have dialogue with the players or the coaches or the management. At no point did I have conversation with them. I just watched the game. That made me a spectator. That made me a fan. But let's say that one of the teams, the Phoenix, lost. So let me go to them. They lose often these days. But let's say that I had an opportunity to go to their bench and say to them, from my vantage point, here's what I see. Here's the adjustments that you all need to make here, and then go to specific players. And here's something I'm seeing from my seat that you may need to do differently. Now, I have influence over the outcome of the game because I had access to the players. I'm more than a spectator now. I'm more than a fan. I'm an influencer, right? So when you go into that classroom and all you did was visit that room, but you did not have the conversation here and you did not have the conversation there, then you are not an influencer in the pedagogy in that classroom. You are just, let me get closer to my camera. You are just a spectator. That's all you are. You are just a fan. That's all you are. You are nothing more. So as you hold up your mirror, ask yourself, in fact, let me keep the mirror up. Ask yourself, who have I been? Particularly this last year, who have I been? Have I been an influencer, a coach, an instructional leader? Or am I just in there watching as if I'm watching the Phoenix Mercury play the Chicago Sky, a fan? And I'll add a piece and then I'm gonna shut it down. While I watched that game, I had popcorn and one hot dog. Don't get on me about my diet. Just I had popcorn and one hot dog. The popcorn is these little small boxes in Phoenix. So I hate to admit it to y'all, but I have 4 boxes, right? But they're very little. They're not the normal size boxes. That maybe they do that so that folks don't have to, so that folks are not eating large boxes of popcorn. And because I bought the first row seats, they were free. The tickets are cheap once you leave New York, baby. In New York, where I was sitting, you pay about $1,000. Where I was sitting, I paid about $125, right? So yeah, row 1. The sweat of the players was hitting my forehead, right? That close, right? So I'm saying to you, I'm eating popcorn watching. When you walk into that classroom and you did not influence what's about to occur in that classroom, do yourself a favor. Let me get to my camera one more time. Go get your popcorn. Bring yourself 4 boxes of popcorn into that classroom and just sit back and just eat your popcorn. Because you ain't nothing but a fan. You ain't nothing but a spectator. That's all you are, baby. I hope somebody on this thread right now say, God D. Ouch. Ooh, I'm shutting this off, man. I ain't watching no more of this. This dude hurt my feelings, man. I was in a good mood a minute ago. Yeah. That's why I told you I ain't here to motivate. I'm here to make you squirm in your chair. That's it. Enough said. I got a guess, y'all. Let me make sure my screen is right here. Let me see. Yeah, we good. We good. Let me get my guest on up here. Let me get her on up here. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? I got the wrong screen up here. There we go. Let's get rid of that logo. Where we at? Where we at? Where we at? Bam. Hey, good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
How you feel?
I feel great.
That's good. That's good. We got Dr. Tonya Woolfolk on here. Let me give me that exact pronunciation.
Woolfolk.
That's so it's a long O on folk, right? Some folks be folk. Woolfolk. So it's so you say so you pronounce it Woolfolk.
Yes, I had to learn that too. So
Okay. Good to see you. Good to see you. Hey y'all, before I read Dr. Woolfolk's I said Woolfolk's Dr. Woolfolk's bio, I want to show you this book that she wrote recently. It's called Hope and Focus, and then it's got a subtitle, Black Males and Success in Science. I was intrigued by this title, both the actual title and the subtitle as soon as I heard about it. And then I was blessed to be able to write the forward to this book, right? So that's a blessing in and of itself. But this is a dynamite book. It's published by Corwin Press, who's a dynamite publisher, and we're gonna be using some of the contents of the book. It's so much in here. It would take us it'd be a whole seminar. It would take us like weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks because it's just that much there. But I wanted to just start out and let you see this, because what you can do, you can go to Amazon like right now and just hit another tab, get yourself a copy. Right. And I'll be reminding you of that and make this a part of your library. I was able to enjoy this on my flights this week. And it's just a lot of good stuff. Let's turn off that Outlook. And let me share this bio, everybody. Give me a second. Here we go. Let me share the bio. Dr. or Tonya Woolfolk, PhD. And I'm gonna read fast, so don't judge me on my stuttering, y'all, because I'm reading fast. Is the coordinator of science for grades K through 5 in one of the largest school districts in Georgia, where she leads science curriculum development and implementation across 25 elementary schools and provides professional learning for over 1,000 teachers and administrators. She supports K-12 educators in science instruction, leadership, teacher clarity, and professional learning communities, and has designed and facilitated executive leadership and organizational development programs nationally. She's the author of Hope and Focus, Black Males and Success in Science, which highlights strategies to improve outcomes, access, and opportunities for Black males in science. Her work centers on instructional design, curriculum development, and adult learning, strategic planning, and creating learning environments where all students, especially Black males, are seen, supported, and positioned for success. She has served as a high school science teacher, department chair, assistant principal, adjunct professor at Mercer University, president of the Georgia Science Supervisors on coordination and supervision of science teaching. She has also presented at state and national conferences and served as a reviewer for several educational organizations and publications. Dr. Woolfolk earned a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Florida A&M University and graduate degrees in education and leadership from Wesleyan College, Georgia College and State University, Valdosta State University, and Mercer University, where she earned her doctorate in curriculum and instruction. There's a lot there, folks. Good stuff, powerful bio. That's probably the short version too, right? So I bet you there's a whole lot more. And I see, and one of your folks, I'm gonna put this on the screen. She says she's a bad girl. She's a bad girl.
Thank you, Dr.
All right, y'all, let's jump into it. You know what we do before we get started. Hey, y'all, hit that share button, retweet, repost, text somebody, call somebody, holler at somebody, let them know we are here. We are here live. YouTube, make sure all of y'all hit that like button, whatever platform you're watching us on, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Hit that like button. Let's say you dislike it, hit the like button anyway, and that way you activate those algorithms, and then all the other people that don't like it, y'all could dislike it together, right? So hit the like button, and we good. I'll remind you again throughout, but please do that. Don't keep it to yourself. Let others know that we're here, we're live. And Dr. Woolfolk, and to the family, we as the new people to the platform wouldn't know this. The fam knows. Before we get into the topic, I just want to learn a little bit about our guests. So so that's my line of questioning for now. Dr. Woolfolk, professionally, you are multidimensional. But even personally, I'm sure it's obvious that you've also got so many different dimensions just in terms of who you are as a person. To that end, just as an educator, who is Dr. Tonya Woolfolk?
I would say that as an educator, I'm someone who just is always seeking to learn and educate myself, right? So that I can help move the needle for others. I've always, every time I do one of those things that you learn about yourself, learner is always at the top. And I will say, I think because I started in education really unsure of myself, if I'm honest. I came in, I think I read like yourself as an alternatively prepared teacher. Like you said earlier in my bio, I have a chemistry degree. And so I decided to go into education and really was unsure of what was to come. And so I constantly wanted to know and learn more so that I could be the best educator I could be. And so I think that while, as you read all those things, that was just my journey of trying to figure out what I was going to do to be impactful.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What is, like when I think back on me as a teacher, me as a principal, and quite frankly, me as a presenter and as a consultant, I'm not just out there doing these things, right? There's a very narrow mission as to why I've been doing this work since 1988. My question to you: what is your mission as an educator? What's that thing? There are things plural, but there's got to be that thing that drives you, right? What is that? Your mission?
It really is just to see children succeed, right? I get so much joy, and every time I hear a story or a former student comes back and tells me something, or even in classrooms or presentations I'm in where I see those light bulbs go off, right? And so that's one of my students, my former
Yeah.
students that just posted that. But seeing children thrive is really my passion. Like I want everybody to succeed. And so, which is part of why I have my hands in a lot of things, right? So I'm always trying to figure out how can we make this better? How can I impact, moving this program forward, or how can I impact moving this building forward, or this particular group of students? And so that really is my motivation, just seeing how big can we make this, right? How successful can we make students be? I just, for me, the sky's the limit, and I'm just trying to figure out how we get everybody on board to see that same thing.
Love it, love it. I would be remiss if I went to the next question and didn't go back to this. Bree Jenkins, right? You haven't been a high school teacher in a long time.
Right.
But yet you have students, because I'm gonna say this is not the only student that admires you like that. That's just the one that popped up right now, right? So to the fam out there, and when I say fam, even the folks who are new to the platform, or the ones who are just here because of Dr. Woolfolk, I want to stop and pause. Sometimes we don't even know how we've impacted a youngster until years later, if they find us. I'm not saying that's the case with Bree Jenkins, but I am saying this: what a beautiful thing when years later the student is still keeping up with the teacher, when the student sees it not robbery to say, my favorite high school teacher, hands down, with a heart. How does that make you feel?
Whew, I haven't cried in a long time. Oh, it's something special.
Yeah,
It really is.
yeah.
You know, all of my students are very special to me, and that's probably one of the things I miss the most. about being in the classroom.
Yeah.
Is just that everyday interaction, those conversations we had. I grew up with those children,
Yeah. Yeah.
and especially, Bree, I was very early in my teaching career, actually, when I had Bree as a student. And so it means the world to me, because honestly, I was trying to figure things out. I
Yeah.
was, trying things, and as I said earlier, just trying to be the best I could be, because I didn't know what I was doing. And so for a student, hey, mommy, for a student to still feel like I impacted them, it's nothing like it. Even at my book signing, Bree came and some of my other former students came,
Mm.
and it touched me so much. Yes, it makes your heart so full.
Yeah.
Because we're just out here doing what we love, right? And to me, I was just doing what I felt like I was supposed to do, and to know that later on, they still feel that impact. And some of them are teachers now. I still talk to some of my students. They find me on Facebook. I didn't get on Facebook till 2020, because I felt like I had to at that
Yeah,
point.
you do.
And so they found me, and it has been a beautiful thing, honestly. It
I
means the
love,
world.
I love it. Thanks for being here, Bree. And I guess that was her mom. And
That was my mom that said that's my daughter.
that's your mom. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, mom, for being here as well. To the fam out there, I'm just going to ask this question, and then I'm going to get back to my script. To the fam out there, are there students out here in the world? And they could be anywhere in the world after they leave you. They could be on any continent. They can be anywhere. But are there students out here? And I'm talking about when you were leaders now. I'm not even talking about your teacher days, fam. Are there students out here who still would reflect upon you and know that you were a source, if not the source, of their success in the world? I'm just talking to the fam on the other side. Are there students out there, adults out here in the world, that you were in the same building for a period of time, whether it be the whole tenure or part of the time they were in that building, that still feel your influence, still feel your impact, still feel your energy, right? As they go through life. That matters. Engage in that reflection, right? That's an important reflection to engage in. Let's keep going. So Doc, you obviously have a love for science.
I do.
And my question to you, what is the source of that love? Where's that coming from?
It came from it came from a kid being put in all kinds of programs. Shout out to my parents. And what I ended up enjoying was just taking things apart. I enjoyed being that girl who was not scared and wasn't afraid to get my hands dirty. I liked dissecting the frogs. They didn't want to touch it. Give it here. I got it. And so all of those things just kind of culminated to where I was like, well, if I like this, why not try to do something else with it? And so science just became something that was quite honestly easy for me, and I think that was one of the things that kind of pushed me towards it, because I didn't feel like it was a hurdle, if you will. It was just one of those things where, okay, I'm good at this. Let me keep doing it. And so that kind of is what fueled it. And then when it got time to go to undergraduate school, it was okay. Well, chemistry was easy. I guess math was easy to me. Let's make that my major. And so that was kind of how all of this science came to be. Was it just naturally felt like it was what I was supposed to do.
Very good, very good. It's in you. It sounds to me that you bleed it.
I
Like
do.
yeah, science is your thing, and obviously, as a live stream / podcast host, I go digging, looking for stuff just to see who my guests are and all that. So I saw some things which takes me right to the next question. So here you were teaching science,
Right.
and then I'm gonna use the word dabbled in assistant principal leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and you did that for 2 years, and then you made a pivot. into science administration. My question to you, given that this platform is comprised of aspiring leaders, assistant principals, new principals, that's the core audience, but then we got the veterans on here all the way to the superintendent's office. My question to you, what made you want to be AP? And then what made you leave AP?
Good question. So
I want to feel like I kind of know the answer, but but with no evidence whatsoever. So let me just see what you say and let's see what I'm thinking and see where it goes. Go ahead.
So I was teaching, minding my own business, head down, just enjoying. I love the children. Like when I tell you, I had breakfast with the children, I had lunch with the children. They sat with me on morning duty. They, everything. And it wasn't until, one of those things you decide, well, I guess I was getting degrees. And I said, well, let me do this PhD. And I don't have a plan to leave the classroom. So I'm going to do curriculum and instruction because that was what I enjoyed doing. I think my first year of teaching science, our science coordinator at the time, Dr. Williams Brown, asked me to write curriculum. Still really didn't know what I was doing, but I said, okay. So I started doing that. So I knew I loved curriculum because I could see the impact that the curriculum had on what was done in the classroom, right? So if I can impact the curriculum, then I maybe could change, how teachers moved in the classroom and what they presented to students and how they got them to learn the science. So I ended up working on that PhD. And in that process, I was met with, well, you need to go into administration. And Dr. Ison was one of those people who was on the chat. And I said, oh no, I don't, I don't want to do that. And, but I ended up starting to shadow administrators at my school. And I saw the other side of it. I saw the conversations I could have with students. I was over disciplined. So, we had 1,800, I think, or so students at the time. And so before I went into administration, when I was shadowing, just those conversations intrigued me, right? And I wanted to see, I knew that I was not sending students to the office, right? But from what I understood, that was some sort of an issue. And so to be able to see the other side of how those conversations could change what would happen next to a student, to, their future in education, all of those things started making me think, well, maybe. So I ended up interviewing to be an assistant principal at the very same school that I was teaching in, which I was like, why would I want to do that? Because, it's a scary thing when they're your colleagues, right? Your peers.
Right now you supervise them.
And then you go into supervising.
Some of them are probably your friends.
Right. Exactly. And I pretty much, and I will say, I stayed to myself a lot. And it just wasn't for no other reason than just, I just wanted to do all the things. Like I literally was, all of my waking time at that point, I didn't have, a lot of other things going on, but I just wanted to, figure out how I could do this teaching thing. So I say that to say, I got the job. And one of the funny story is, one of the things that they told me was when I had a kid, I had an incident in my classroom one time where it was about to be a fight. I'll just say that. And all I did was put that mama voice on and just shut it down really quickly. And these are some big old dudes. But that was one of the times and the situations that I'm blessed that my administration saw in me what I just didn't see in myself. Like I didn't see my petite small self as assistant principal of discipline. So I did that, loved every minute of it. When I tell you, when that K-5 science coordinator job was created, which is the job I have now, I almost cried because I knew I did not want to leave doing what I was doing. And I'll never forget, there was a teacher at my leaving, sort of ceremony thing. And they said, well, why are you leaving then? And I just felt like this job was created for me, the K-5 science coordinator job. But I was torn, right? Because that assistant principal, like I was implementing new things. we had started Eagle Ambassadors under me, where the kids were dressing up, they were looking nice, welcoming people in. I was able to pick the kids that were on that team.
Wow.
Just a lot of really nice things that were being put into place. I, was doing things for kids coming back from our alternative school, like, let's try this, let's have, you know what I mean? So a lot of things that to this day, I sometimes feel like, if I had a couple more years as assistant principal, what would that have looked like? But I always feel like things happen for a reason, and I could not miss this opportunity to become K-5 science coordinator. Like I said, the lady, Dr. Williams Brown, who had me first writing curriculum from the very beginning of me as an educator in our district, they had split her job. So I knew that I would be in good hands, and mentorship. So I took the job.
Yeah.
I applied. It was mine. And I had done a little bit of work with some endorsements for our Middle Georgia RESA. So I was doing some things where I was working with K-5 science teachers and really seeing, okay, this is how my impact as a scientist, right, and as someone who knows high school science can really still impart that knowledge into how we can equip K-5 science teachers to be able to move the needle all the way up. So, and I love it. I love it. I've been doing it. I think this is year 12.
Yeah.
And it's just, it fulfills me in so many ways. But it's still, and I still get to go in the classroom and hang out and not be a spectator, though.
That's right. No, yeah, that's right. That's right. It's funny. I think I was like 99% there in my prediction, my assumption. I had said to myself, I said, she was in the AP position, and that science position came up, and you had to make a decision. This was just me, like, speculating.
Mm-hmm.
You said, because I already know your passion for science, and now this position opens up. So my mind said, she said, I got to go with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm, I was right there. I got to go with this. But where I got it wrong, I said, maybe she didn't even like being an AP. So
I loved it.
you loved it. Yeah. That's the part I got wrong. But yeah. So that's a
I
good thing.
enjoyed that. Yeah, I enjoyed that fast pace. That we had a great group that I worked with too, so we laughed a lot at the same time to keep from crying, sometimes. But I enjoyed being on the go as an AP. It was fun.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, fam, we're going to jump into the actual topic now. So do me a favor, hit that share button, retweet, repost, tag somebody, text somebody, call somebody, holler at somebody. Let them know we're here. We're live. We're talking black males and science and success in science. Also, make sure you hit that like button, right? That's important. Hit that like button, whatever platform you're on, hit the like button. All right, here we go. Hey, Doc, let me put the book on the screen. Hope and Focus. Black males and success in science. And I might add, yours truly wrote the forward. Right?
Thank you for that too.
Appreciate it. Hope and Focus. Why'd you write this book?
Again, it was one of those things where somebody else saw in me what I didn't see in myself. Dr. Hollins Sandra Hollins Alexander. I, just happened to be talking to her one day, and this book actually was a lot of the context of my dissertation work. So, and that was 2012 when I finished that. So, needless to say, I didn't want to look at that stuff anymore. You know what I mean? It was done. I was over. But I pride myself on really digging into, like I said, I'm always a learner. So I'm always reading things. When I was in my PhD program, I read your book, Motivating Black Males to Succeed, to Achieve in Life, right? And in school. And so I have always been one of those people that says, I love when I can read something that then I can implement, right?
Yeah.
And then I can, try out in my classroom. And so when it came around that it was, it was like, you should write a book. And I was like, I got 1 million children and 1 million organizations. How? But I felt like, when they said that this topic is one of those things that we still needed to have conversations around. And I said, I'm still very passionate about it, so let's do it. And that really was how it ended up, happening. I always feel like, you know, things happen for a reason. And in that span between when I wrote my dissertation and now, I've been able to be in a lot of districts and a lot of states, doing a lot of professional learning and learning about what's going on in different environments and how that's impacting students across K-12, right? So, I taught high school, I've got a middle school administrator husband, and I've got, and I live in this K-5 world a lot on a day-to-day. So it's really been nice to see. I got a lot of vignettes in there, so I was able to pull from different experiences and conversations that I have been privy to, being a part of. And so that was a lot of how the book ended up coming to be, because I knew what had worked for me, right? But also to see how those things were manifesting in other classrooms across the U.S. has been one of the things that was able to drive me to write the book.
I don't have the vignettes as a part of my questioning, but you just mentioned it, so I want to go off script. Um, I found those vignettes, and obviously I didn't read them all, but I went through some of them, and I found them to be fascinating. And I found, therefore, the style of the book to be very different from a lot of books that we read in the education space. Talk to us about why you infuse these vignettes of these young people in pretty much the bulk of the book.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Because I feel like sometimes when I'm reading an education book, I'm writing in the notes like how it applied to me, right? And so the vignettes were meant for people to see, or educators to also see themselves or their students, and what happens in classrooms, even if they may not know, like, these are some of the thoughts that children are having. Black males in particular, for this book, these are some of the thoughts that I just happen to have gained the knowledge of, or these are some of the scenarios that are occurring in different places. And so in some cases it's meant to resonate, but in some cases it's meant to challenge you to think about, wait a minute, am I making a student feel this way, or are students having thoughts like this in my classroom? And then my goal was to go into, okay, if this is happening or if this is being said, then how do we move with research based, right, strategies to then turn the tides with what's occurring, or what can we learn from this situation to then build upon, right, and continue to increase the success of our Black males. And so that was why I wrote it that way. Of course, I'm also a scientist, so I write lesson plans, right, in a particular model. And so in this case, I wrote it in the 5E model, which we start with explore. And so the vignettes are meant for educators to explore what's happening. And then I go into, engage with what's happening in the classroom, and then explore the research and go into how we can explain that to move the needle.
Makes a lot of sense. I'm gonna keep this. This is some of the books that I have on here. We talk about them, and then they kind of go into my library. But this is one I'm gonna keep handy, like sitting right here
Thank
with the books I read, and because I want to go through it even more so.
Thank
Than
you.
I have getting there. No, good stuff. Good stuff. You know, Doc, there's a mindset out here in various spaces in our work that why they'll say, why are we breaking students up into these demographics? Like,
Right.
that's out there. But I will say, before I even go further with this, but I'm not that guy, right? So the mindset of, why are we looking at demographics, and some will use the language subgroups. Why are we not just focusing on great instruction? Right. So we know that mindset is out there. And I have my own perspectives and lectures and workshops on it. So I'm not even going to get into it. But my question to you, what are your thoughts on that mindset of, why are we looking at specific demographics, specific populations of students, versus just that generic of great instruction? And thereby, why did you write a book that is specifically focused on Black male success in science?
So again, I think maybe my first year teaching, I went to a conference. I think it was the At-Risk Youth Conference in Savannah. And I remember, first of all, being bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. And there was this one session that was full of people. And it was a session about Black males. And I thought to myself, now why is that session so full? But hearing the conversations that people were having, they really just wanted to know, like, how can I change this? What's happening in my classroom? And so one of the other things that I found, and you're right, I don't ascribe to the idea that, yes, we should do everything for everybody the same, because different people have different needs, right? I have 3 children at my house, 3 girls, and they all are very different, right? And I have to know what is going to work to move each individual student in my class forward. Now, with my Black males, what I was noticing as a result of a lot of the conversations I was having or observations I was making was that some things were just not being seen or heard, right, about them. And when we group children as a all and don't realize that they are individuals, and these particular Black males need to be seen as such, then we're basically ignoring them, right? We're saying that, well, you don't matter that much, right, to me, to really figure out what's going to work best for you. So I'm going to do what I've been doing, and I'm going to hope that that works, and you're caught up some kind of way in that. But what I found was, when I intentionally did things to say, okay, I know that, and some of the things I talk about in the book, like, I know that you're going to not only need me to tell you how to get there, but you're going to need me to provide you XYZ checkpoints along the way, right? Or we're going to need to work out a plan, and I need you to see how we're going to get here, because you've been taught or you've been told that you're not going to make it, so there's no point in trying, right? And so what ended up happening was my focus became on the Black male, just because I just was seeing it being neglected, right? And in the subgroups, we're showing up in the data, right? We look at data, we call ourselves analyzing data so much that you cannot ignore it. So it's just like, if I'm trying to have my whole body great, I can't say, yeah, but I'm not gonna worry about my arms, because I don't, you know what I mean? I don't really care
Yeah.
about how they look. I got to do the whole thing, but if that means I got to focus individually on a specific part to make the whole thing look great, then that's what I'm going to do. And so when we talk about our data, I was seeing in where I was, and in different situations, that was the area that we could get a lot of ground, we could gain a lot of ground. And if I focus on that, then we can move the whole needle for the whole building and the whole grade level. But we still have to not we still can't paint everybody with a broad brushstroke. We've got to narrow in and say, this is what they need, this is how I'm going to provide it to them. And yeah, some of those things still may work for a number of other students. I'm not saying that that's not the case either. But if I start by looking intentionally on how I can impact that particular group, that's gonna be a game changer for sure. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it in my own data. Even my influence as a K-5 science coordinator and in different districts.
You use the word data, and it makes me think about this question. So the person, the thought that's out there, the perspective that's out there, why are we looking at demographics? Why are we looking at subgroups? Why are we looking at different races of young people? Why are we not just giving them great instruction, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that thought process that's out there. But then I'm a data guy, right? So my response is, let's go to the data.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's and the word that I use as a synonym of data is story, right? I'll say, well, let's look at your story, right? And I even say, like, with a story, there's typically an author, right? So I say, let's look at the story that you wrote. So you're principal of school and you have data or data, right? And now that data collectively is your story as the leader of that school. So let's examine your story. And then I say, as we examine the story, here's the question, Principal. How you like the story that you wrote?
Yeah.
You wrote. Ooh, I don't like it. Well, typically, when we're not satisfied with the story, we revise and ultimately we edit so that we produce a great finished product, right? So I'm saying all that to say, so we look at the data, and in so many cases, the data, I say them interchangeably only because in different regions it's data.
Yeah.
Right? So I look at the data, and we see in far too many cases Black boys
Mm-hmm.
underperforming in science and mathematics. But I'm not going to turn this into a different conversation, but I'm just going to slide this in, not knowing that the science and the math are flowing through their veins,
That's
historically
right.
speaking, historically thousands of years speaking. So now he doesn't realize he's a walking science, he's a walking mathematics, because he doesn't know the history.
Right.
And chances are good, neither does the teacher, right? And
Yeah.
chances can be, now I feel like I might get controversial. I'm gonna step off of this in a second, that I can't even teach this in a particular region, right? So anyway, we'll leave that right there. So here's where I'm going with this. How do we get folks to realize, once they see the data,
Mm-hmm.
that the data saying we have to do something differently with specific populations, not just Black boys, whomever.
Right.
The data saying it is screaming out that we're missing a population of students or populations of students. How do we convince folks that the data is telling you something? It's a story that's telling you something. How do you react to it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's been one of the hardest parts of of doing this, because the data can be right there in a lot of cases, and it's like, yeah, but, and then there are all these other things, right, that they try to tell you are the reasons behind it. And so what I have found is, if I can in small ways show you, listen, this is what the data is saying, but it does not represent who those children are, right? It does
Yeah,
not represent what they are capable of.
that part.
And then what I really often try to do is I try to find the data from someone who is doing the opposite of what someone else's data is showing, right? So if I know, listen, I've got this jam up teacher over here that is proving to you that, if your excuse is, well, they can't read, well, they can't do X, Y, and Z. But if I've got a teacher who also has students that can't read, but they are knocking it out of the park in science, then I'm going to show that to you and have that be a part of our conversation. Now you got to have cognitive dissonance to tell me why this is happening for her and you can't do the same. You know what I mean? Because it's very possible. And that was what, I found years ago. I just was oblivious to it as a teacher at that time. But then when I started looking at the data and started saying, wait a minute, these people across town, I've got students that are outperforming them, and I don't feel like I'm doing a bunch special, except for listening to my students, except for trying to meet them where they are, except for trying to give them the resources and the scaffolding and the components that I feel like are going to make them specifically successful. So it's about the perspective. It's really about opening eyes to say, I can't ignore this. I can't say, well, it's a small number of them and it'll be okay. No, I gotta care enough about all of those children, to want all of them to succeed. We can't just ignore it.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. We got to just keep bringing it front and center. And like you said earlier, sometimes that means making people feel uncomfortable, right? Because then we're putting a group to it that sometimes we don't want to, have a conversation and acknowledge how we can do something different to affect that change.
That's right. Love it. Love it. Love it. Doc, has your research, I know you've had a specific focus on the young men, but has your research revealed anything about the young women?
So I get that question a lot. I've been asked to write about
Hmm.
the young, females in science too. And I would say a lot of times there are some similarities. The girls, though, I have found have a little bit more confidence in what they can do in science, in terms of, I guess that's kind of we have sometimes this push for, girls in STEM and that kind of thing. And so sometimes we tap into that in such a way that they feel a little bit more empowered. I do work with a lot of girl groups. I'm our Delta Academy and Delta Gyms committee chair, and
Mm.
I do a lot of work in other organizations with young ladies. I used to have my own Girl Scout group. We used to go camping, uh, but I have found that the girls sometimes have more of that agency, if you will, in order to get there. Now, it's been a minute since I've looked at the data in terms of undergraduate, degree pursuit. But back then, the girls still were trying to pursue those, and the males were not at the same rate. Black males were not at the same rate as the black girls. So I feel like, yes, there is still, of course, work to be done in that vein as well. But at that time, I was just like, these are my babies that I know I have seen some specific things work that other people aren't doing, or other people aren't willing to do at this time. So I need to bring that to the forefront so that that change can happen there. But for the girls, again, I didn't do a whole lot of specific research for this particular text on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are some similarities.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah, good stuff. Let's go. The first chapter is entitled "Pursuing and Maintaining Hope for Black Males." Doc, I was intrigued by that title. Right, again,
Mm.
pursuing and maintaining hope for Black males, with an emphasis on the word hope. I was immediately intrigued, and I said, I want to incorporate this as part of the conversation. What is your message, not in the chapter itself, but what is your message in that title?
I think because I think it's more than just pursuing, right? We can't. What I have found is that sometimes we'll have these grandiose ideas of, let's try something. Well, we may try it, but how do we maintain it, right? How do we not just have it be a one-off, but we say, okay, I am going to continue to see this all the way through, because that's going to lead to real success. That's going to lead to real change across the board, and that'll be everlasting. So I feel like that's kind of why I said pursuing and maintaining, because I don't want it to just be about the pursuit. I want the change to last longer than a fleeting moment.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to us about this word hope, though. I'm thinking about, just, I guess, generically, we talk about having vision,
Hmm.
we talk about having belief, right? We talk about having a sense of purpose in life. What is it about this word hope?
Yeah, so let me tell you how hope came to be. When I started doing the research, I started trying to, again, I was trying to understand what was happening, right? And what I ended up finding was, and at the same time, I happened to also be teaching. I think I was teaching this then, AP psychology, and the hope theory, which is by Snyder and group, with that group of researchers. They came up with this theory that, to me, encompassed more about hope than just, I want to try something and hope for the best, like we say sometimes, right? With that psychology lens behind it, they really wanted to look at the fact that it's more to it than just trying to pursue something, right? Like we said earlier. So it encompasses not only uh, knowing how we're going to get somewhere, but then also having the willpower to do so, right? So, and what I was finding was that in some cases, some students knew, okay, yeah, this is my goal, but they didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
Or somebody may have shared with them, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z, but then they didn't have those additional components to then be motivated to do so. And so this hope theory piece came into, it resonated with me because I felt like this is these are the missing pieces, right? This is what we're missing as educators, because we feel like if I just tell them XYZ, then they just do it, right? But there are all these other components. They're how they feel internally. They're how, those emotional expressions they maybe are seeing from you as an educator, or they have emotional intelligence for sure as well. And so they're reading cues, they're having their own perceptions, they are taking into account what they've experienced in the past, what other people have told them they can or cannot do. They have all of these things in their head about past performance, or even like we talked about earlier, looking at the data. If I'm told as a black male that this data shows that you know what I mean, you're not going to do well in this, think about how I'm going to internalize that, right? And so the hope theory takes all of that into consideration. But as educators, we can use that knowledge to then say, okay, what are the pieces I need to give these particular students, right? What is it that they're missing? And how can I infuse that into my pedagogy, or what I provide, or what I offer, not just instructionally, because I talk about other ways to do that as well in the book. But really, how can we make sure that overall we're helping all of those kids reach the goal in whatever way works for them?
Yeah.
So just putting all those pieces together, I just feel like it's not just, I want to go somewhere, how do I get there? It's another component to it.
To build off that, when you were in the classroom teaching, you noticed that your black males were outperforming the rest of the black males in other classrooms under your leadership and under your tutelage. So you knew that there was something different happening in your school, in your classroom, relative to the pedagogy. I want to read something from. Let me put the book on the screen again. Open Focus: Black Males and Success in Science, by yours truly, Dr. Tonya Woolfolk. I want to read something along the lines of what I just said on page 3 in the introduction. Black males' science performance was improved through both the strategic thinking contributions of science teachers and other adults, through black males' own strategic thinking contributions. Relative to agency thinking, the other two themes were outside persuasions and self-determination. In other words, black male science performance was also improved by influences other than themselves in goal-directed persuasions, as well as their own determination to reach their goals. That's powerful. It's a part of a broader paragraph, but my question to you, and as I picked my book up, I lost my place in my notes. So let me get back to where I was. Here we go. What I just read. There's a lot there. It's a whole 2 hour us talking. Break that down.
So, it goes back to those components of the hope. So when I researched it, I found out that it wasn't just about, like I said earlier, what do I do to get there? It was about how do all these other components play a role in affecting that change, right? So I even talk about, bringing in different groups, having intrinsic and extrinsic motivation be components of that agency thinking, because we can't just think, well, and I've heard this, right? And I'm sure other people have, well, these kids just don't want to do it. And so we limit it sometimes to all putting it on a student and thinking that they have to have that natural motivation to do so. When I argue that we can also provide opportunities and enlightening them to where they see the goal in having that motivation. And if we're bringing people in and constantly talking to them and having conversations around, listen, this is what you did, man. Like, do you see this? Right? And then that internally says, oh, okay, right? That changes you. That makes you feel like, okay, then maybe I can do something else, right? Maybe I can, if I continue doing XYZ amount of effort, or if I continue using this particular strategy, or if I see that once I have, something in place that I see as a result has led to success, then that changes the motivation that I have. And so as adults, we also can't just give up and say, well, I can't do anything about how they feel about what they are capable of doing. But what I found is, even, I listen as a teacher, and I talk about this, I will call a pastor, a coach, anybody, right, that I feel like has some sort of impact on a student, and be like, listen, I need you to help me, let me figure this out. How can we work together to then motivate a student? And so, yes, they don't know what they don't know. I just had this conversation. We're working on our portrait of a graduate the other day, and we were talking about how students just don't know what they don't know. They don't know that, yeah, I can be successful if I try this. They don't know that there are things on the other side of, what I'm attempting to do at the moment. And then, but if we give them those tools, right, and we show them this opportunity is there, thank you for that comment, that they are open to that, right? If they're exposed, there's so many things, and I will tell you, conversations with students I've had that they just were not exposed to. And I'm talking about simple things like careers. A lot of the times when I talk to students, and I would ask them what they wanted to be, they would say things like, well, I want to be like my uncle such and such, or my dad does this, so I'm thinking I'm going to try that. Or, it's usually always connected to someone they have a relationship with that they can see, I can do that, right? That's possible, that's attainable for me. And so leading to that agency thinking helps them have that willpower and that determination to then do so. So I think it's important that exposure, yes, thank you, that's just popped up, that exposure is a critical part for seeing what's possible. But then not just seeing it, now let's get there. Now let me put you in contact with people and have you have conversations with people that can show you this is the path I took to then reach that particular goal that we're trying to attain. And it's not always just about a career, right? It can just simply be, I want to do the best I can in this particular science class, right? But if I put you in contact with a student who may have struggled with this, and I share my stories about how I may have gone through XYZ and this is how I got over it, you're more attached to that, and you can grapple with, okay, this is what I can use to move myself forward to.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's keep it moving. I got you good on time?
I'm good.
All right, because I got so much, man. It is my norm. The people, my regular families that's on here, they know I overplan every week. Overplan. These sessions are not supposed to be 2 hours long. But I get into preparing, so I can get the most out of my guests and all that. So I want to read something else from the book. I'm actually still in the intro on page 4.
Okay.
Short passage, fam. In this book, I reflect on the insights gained from my experiences with Black males. Instead of concentrating on hopelessness or deficits, I chose to center on ways to cultivate hope in Black male students by building on their strengths. This does not mean I did not have behaviors in situations that presented challenges. I just chose to keep what proved to be beneficial for students the focus of this book. There's a lot there in that short passage I just read, so let's jump into it. What stood out for me in that passage, I put it right here in my notes. I chose to center on ways to cultivate hope in Black male students by building on their strengths. My first is a 3-part question. So the first part, bring that sentence to life for me. What do you mean by cultivating hope in Black male students by building on their strengths? What does that look like in the classroom?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I will say this. I was asked a couple of times in the reviews, well, why don't you talk about, some of the the deficits and that kind of thing. And if you know me, I like to be a positive person, right? So I'm not going to do it. Not that those things don't happen, but I'm always going to, narrow in on that. And to that point, whenever I had students in my classroom, so for example, listen, if I had, and I think I talk about Thomas in the book, if I had a kid who I knew was Mr. Influential and he was going to run the show for sure, I had to decide how I needed my show run. That was who I was going to get on my team. So then I'm going to say, okay, let me cultivate the leadership in him, right? Because clearly he is a leader here. And so what I then would do is give specific jobs or tasks to those students that I felt like this is how I'm going to capitalize or cultivate the hope in you, because I needed for him to see my leadership can be used for good, right? So yeah, I can influence a lot of people, and I have seen it go in a negative direction. But if I can get him to say, okay, I'm going to be the leader in such a way that I'm going to lead discussions. I think in that particular student, I ended up making him the person who stamped my little journals that I had, right? Every kid do when they come into class. But because for him, he naturally wanted to talk to everybody anyway, right? So I'm again saying, well, you're going to do this. And so you can see that there can be a positive aspect to it. Now, also in terms of building on strengths, I've had kids that have been just naturally good at maybe analyzing something. And some people would say, well, they're always, doing the most, right? But if I use those strengths in terms of, okay, I need you to find the holes in this data. If we're investigating something, I need you to figure out what are all the ways this could have gone wrong. And so then again, saying having those pockets of success and that praise does so much more for students than just a pat on the back ever could, right? So naturally creating ways that say, what I bring to the table, my personality, those things can be used in a way that shows leadership, that shows growth of my peers, that shows my content knowledge. And I don't have to shrink or be quiet because I'm always told I'm talking too much, or I'm always told to sit down somewhere, or, those kind of things. And so just really leveraging what they bring to the table to say, okay, now I want you to see what change this affects. I want you to see how this can move you forward, how now you're motivated to continue to do more and participate more in a way that I need you to in my classroom as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Once again, Doc, we've got this leadership audience, aspiring school leaders, assistant principals, new principals, and then the veterans all the way to superintendents that do tune in. Let's look at instructional leadership here. As I was talking about in the monologue, in fact, this morning. But instructional leadership, it seems to be at my core these days in terms of the work I do as a presenter. So as an instructional leader, and given that you were an AP for a little while in your journey, given all that you've shared thus far, what do I need to know as an instructional leader, as an instructional coach of my science teachers of Black males? So let me set this up so that everybody that's on here really understands what I'm asking. I know you do. I want to make sure everybody understands where I'm going. So we've got this school where the data says that my Black boys are underperforming in science, right? I'm instructional leader. I don't necessarily have a science background, but no instructional leader as an administrator is going to be strong in every content area in the building. That's just not possible, right? That's a very gifted person that is, right? So as instructional leader that's watching right now, or the larger audience that will see it later on video, what do I need to know from Dr. Woolfolk in terms of my relationship to teacher of science that has Black boys in the classroom whom the data says are underperforming? How do you strengthen me as coach?
So people who know me know my soapbox is, are they doing something? right? I I cannot tell you how many times I've gone into places and it is a lot of a sit and get science. Our Black males need to be engaged. They need to they need to have their hands on things. They need to be inquisitive. Their curiosity is always at a all-time high, right? So they need to have opportunities to figure things out. And thank you, Stevens. Yes, Kimberly. That's one of my teachers and one of my curriculum writers from back in the day. But
Nice.
those hands-on experiences they do a couple of things. One, they give the students that may not have even had right opportunities or background knowledge. We talk about schema, building schema in literacy, right? So we've got to do the same thing in science. We've got to build experiences where kids want to figure out something, because otherwise you're just telling me something to do. And so I always tell I always tell, excuse me, administrators, look for kids doing things. Look for them to be answering some sort of questions. I'm trying to figure out how, how I can go faster, how I can move this object from point A to point B, or why is it that, these animals live in a particular habitat, whatever it may be. I'm trying to figure out something, and this is how I'm getting there. So if I go into a classroom as an administrator and they're always only writing or reading something, right, about science, what are they connecting it to? What are they, then able to grapple with to say, well, if I used to think this, but now I'm experiencing this, what is that teaching me, right? And so that's always my message is they've got to be, yes, bringing the learning to life. They've always got to be having some sort of conversation around, well, this is what I observe. This is what it's telling me. And so this is how it relates to what I'm learning, right? So really connecting that to, like, whether you call learning intentions or learning targets or any other terminology you're using in your districts, it's important that we got to make that. And then there's got to be something they're interested in. So it can't just be, I picked this up because it's in the book. So, hey, Dr. Coley, it's got to be that I've got a conversation around, you're learning this because I may have heard you talk the other day about why that you like race cars. Or I may have heard you talk the other day about you trying to figure out why it was the other day when you woke up, the moon was there and now it's not, right? And so I always am listening in to make it connect to them. Yes, make it relevant so that they see, like, I have a real reason for wanting to figure it out. And then I'm gonna go home and tell everybody what I learned, right? Because it was just that cool. But those are the biggest things that I see us missing, which then we talk about, well, these kids don't have the vocabulary. Well, they haven't experienced something to then connect the vocabulary to, or they haven't, you know what I mean? They don't have the experiences in which to say, now I understand this because I saw XYZ happen. And I think that's a lot of times, for the sake of time, we miss out on with science education. I just did a conversation, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, on literacy, and really how science undergirds those strands of that literacy rope, because we've got to have that foundational piece. They gotta know some things, right, to even be able to connect it to. And so if they don't have those experiences, those hands-on learning experiences, those inquiry, investigations and that kind of thing, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, because it's also those inquiry things that, for me, I will tell you, you asked me earlier about as a young girl, well, how I became interested in science. I wanted to know stuff. And I was put in situations where I was able to, try to learn different things. And on my own, I still remember I had an electromagnet I made back in maybe 4th grade. I kept that thing for a long time, probably till I went to college, because it was one of those things that I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, you know what I mean? But providing those experiences to students, they can spark something that lasts for forever, right? And I think that's important for us not to miss, and to really to give students those opportunities.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, so what I'm hearing then, the that instructional leader, there's a whole lot in terms of just science alone to help that person transition from spectator
Mm-hmm.
coach, right? Because although I don't expect you to be expert in science, right? There's still a level of competency that you've got to bring into that classroom, some level of expertise you got to bring, not to the classroom, but to that teacher, to
Right.
help that teacher to navigate how I'm going to be able to impact my Black male learners who may be underperforming in that given classroom. Good stuff. Let's keep it moving. So I'll stay consistent with instructional leaders, instructional coaches. I'm thinking about that instructional leader so let's set it up. So you got teachers who have Black boys in their classrooms, and they report to a particular administrator, right? So let's make it an assistant principal. So one of the assistant principals they report to, that's their supervisor, that's their evaluator of record. But this particular supervisor, this particular AP is inundated with things non-instructional all day, all week, all month, all year. And then you have instructional coaches in the building whose focus is language arts and mathematics. You've got science supervisors at the district level, but you got a large district and they're stretched all over the place. What is your message to that assistant principal? Matter of fact, I can't confine it to the assistant principal. What is your message to the assistant principal and the principal that supervises that AP about how we free this person up so that he can be that instructional leader / coach to those teachers of science that have data that says that their Black boys are underperforming? That's a lot there, but best you can.
So it's interesting because, like I said, I was assistant principal of discipline.
But you know something, let me stop you real quick. I when you said that, I probably heard that louder than anything you've said since we've been on, right? But I decided not to comment on it, right?
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you why I didn't comment. Not that this is not me saying I don't want you to comment, but I want to tell you why I didn't comment. I didn't comment because the way you worded it, and I could have been wrong, I could have misconstrued it, but the way you worded it made it sound to me like that was your assignment, right? The way you worded it.
Yeah.
So therefore, I said to myself, okay, I'm not mad at you, so to speak, quote unquote. I'm not mad at you because it wasn't what you decided. It was your assignment. So therefore, here you are, you're like locked into, I might even use the word trapped into this particular role, which is a stereotype of being an assistant principal. So I said, I'm going to let it go and not say a word about it. But now that you mentioned it, that's why I said, now let me interrupt you and jump in and tell you what's in my head since you said that back in the beginning of this conversation. Go ahead.
No, so when I applied for the job, I knew it was over discipline. I knew it was going to be over discipline. But I knew that it would be, I don't know if the word is unorthodox, but I didn't fit the stereotype of what would be an assistant principal discipline. And then to this day, I have people still think I was an assistant principal for instruction, just because of the nature of the work I do and, all the professional learning. But I think that was the beauty of the position, because I was very much so passionate about the discipline part, for sure. Like I enjoyed those conversations, and some of them were hard, but I also enjoyed being able to say, but then I'm gonna see you in that classroom tomorrow. And when I come in there, you know what I mean? Yeah. I want to see the X, Y, Z. And then I had both lenses, because when I was in the classroom working with the teachers, because I was over the evaluations of the science teachers. But when I was over the teachers, I was able to be in there and look for maybe even what the student was telling me was happening of why they were disconnecting. I could see maybe why they had XYZ issue with another student that you just happened to miss, because they're sitting there and they're not engaged. They're not the least bit interested in what you're talking about, and it's not relevant to them. And then so what I also was able to do is then have effectual change with conversations with the teachers. And I still get to do this to this day when I'm able to work with schools and we watch back videos. And I say, now you see how that boy knew those answers, but because they weren't acknowledged or their answer wasn't promoted as a great response, they shut down the rest of the class. They didn't have anything else to say. Or I can go in and say, you see how they were trying, and the rest of their team in their group just ignored their responses because they didn't feel like they were right. So they went with the group answer, which didn't include theirs, and therefore they weren't validated. So again, then you end up having a maybe a behavior issue, not all the times, but maybe a behavior issue or a disconnection. Yeah. And then so it was nice to be able to see it both sides, and doing a lot of the work that I'm able to do now, go in and really get teachers and other administrators to see what is happening when you actually zoom in and look, particularly like look at that Black male, look at him over in the corner, or look at him in this group, and the body language of the group, or the body language of you when you walk by and you asked what was going on, or the questioning, your line of questioning that you asked of what they were figuring out. And so just bringing, like you said earlier, bringing those things to the forefront of people's thinking, so that they can see this is how I am affecting things by my responses. So I also I made it a point to just say, listen, I know I'm gonna have a bunch of discipline at some point today. Right? Something's gonna happen that's gonna take me away from my whole plan. But if I can at least have a plan, or to identify, my goal is to get into XYZ classrooms, and I want to see this happen. That's going to be the first priority for me before the next thing that takes me running down the hall happens, right? Or the next text message, or or parent phone call I get. So really, just again, we talk a lot about being instructional leaders in our district and in a lot of the places I go, and not just being, like you said, pigeonholed into the discipline mode of, oh, all I get to deal with is what's happening that's negative, because that can burn you out too. So intentionally looking for the pockets of sunshine, right? And that's being in those classrooms and being a part of seeing what's going on and having those conversations with teachers and students, because the students, to me, is probably the most fun part of being in those classrooms. But asking them, like, yo, what are you figuring out right now? Why are you doing that? You know what I mean? And really trying to dive into the student thinking. And then it's also modeling, and not in a invasive way, but modeling for the teacher the kinds of questions and the kinds of conversations that you can have with students that will really bring a lot of that learning to the forefront.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Great stuff. You've seen me a few times turn this way, and I've been looking for this book, and I'm distracted by the fact that it's not there. And now when I get off later on, I gotta find out why my book is not where I'm accustomed to it being. I do have other shelves here, maybe it's there, but it should be here with this author who, all his books, I keep them together. So I got to figure this out. But in the meantime, the book is called, and maybe you know this book, it's called Blacks in Science, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, right? And then there's another book that's not here, but maybe it's on the other shelf, called Black Inventors of America by McKinley Burt Jr., a book that's out of print. So if you went to Amazon, they're probably charging hundreds of dollars to get a copy, right? But anyway, I'm share. I was going to share something out of Blacks in Science, edited by Ivan Van Sertima, who used to be professor at here in Jersey at Rutgers University. He's since transitioned, but I want to share this with you, and then I want to ask you a question. This statement kind of reveals who I am as an educator, going back to substitute teacher, AP, principal, presenter, consultant, author. This is me. I've been saying for 40 years now that at the end of the day, Black children, twofold question, twofold statement. Black children must be afforded the opportunity to see themselves in the learning.
Yep.
Right? That's just the foundation upon which I stand. I apologize to nobody. I've probably lost business over it. I'm good with that. Right? Black children must be afforded the opportunity to see themselves in the learning. In other words, the pedagogy must be culturally relevant for
Right.
the young people. And we can do that in diverse classrooms. It just takes a teacher that has the know-how how to be culturally relevant while maintaining culturally responsive relationships with the population that's in that room, right? But by the same token, I say that Black children must be given the opportunity to see people who look just like them in these spaces, whether it be the teacher, the administrators, the counselors, or people that we bring into the building who embody what it is that we're teaching, right? So if I'm teaching science, let me bring some Black scientists into the building, right? If I'm
Right.
talking entrepreneurship, let me bring some Black entrepreneurs into the building so that I can remove it from abstraction
Mm-hmm.
and make it very concrete where I can touch you, right? So that's been my foundation forever, and it's rooted in me reading, studying, and embodying the book The Miseducation of the Negro by the late great Dr. Carter G. Woodson. So I say all of that to say, and let me cap it by saying, and I believe this with every fiber of my being, I can't be what I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I remember, I'm gonna just go on a quick tangent. I remember for years going to the mainstream conferences as opposed to African Black conferences, the mainstream conferences, and never ever seeing a Black presenter, but me having this dream of being that Black presenter in the education space. So my trajectory may have been quicker if I had models in front of me in the mainstream, in terms of Black, Jawanza Kunjufus of the world and so many others, I saw them, but I wasn't seeing them at those mainstream conferences where we're in the minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, but I want to be in those spaces. I want to be on those stages, but I don't have a model nor someone to call and say, help me navigate this. So I had to figure that out. I got in all of them, got on all them stages, but I had to figure it out. Maybe it wouldn't have taken as long if I had someone I could see.
Right.
Right. So I'm very cognizant of that all the time for Black boys, Black girls to see people who are in these roles in these spaces so that it becomes realistic and not just something that I would dream of, but it's really not a realistic dream, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
said all that to say this, to ask you this. What is your opinion of both? Your opinion of the need for culturally relevant pedagogy and Black children seeing Black folks in within their orbit, which increases the probability that I'm in within grasp of whatever this thing is. And I might say, this is culturally relevant and culturally respond. That's what it is, and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably why you asked me to write the forward, because
Yes.
you already know where I'm coming from, right?
Yes.
So, go ahead, floor is yours.
Yeah, even going back to, so many things came to my head when you were talking. Even out when I, like I said, when I was first working on my PhD, and I read your book, um, I think there was it's been a long time, but there was a part in there that talked about those mentoring groups, right? At the end. I want to say it was towards the end, but how you can set those up in your buildings. And I will tell you, like, I was like, oh, I want to do that, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
because in that you talked about how, and I could correct me if I'm wrong, but how those students needed to see what those things looked like, right? And they needed people to then impart to them the wisdom from somebody they trusted,
Yeah.
right, and understood.
Yeah.
And so I remember being in AP. One of the things I did was, and I know I got another part of your question to answer, but I
Take
had a
your time.
group.
Take your time. Long
I
as you
had
got time, I got time.
Okay. I had a group of kids that had, like I said before, I had come back from an alternative setting, and I just wanted them to not come back in that building and feel defeated. Right. I did not want them to come back in that building and feel like, okay, when am I gonna get kicked out again? Right. So I had a friend of mine, rest his soul, he has departed us now, but he was a black male lawyer.
Mm.
And he had gone through some things when he was younger, right? And had made the pivots necessary to then turn things around and become the successful lawyer he was. And so I had him come in and talk to them, right? And not all the kids were black males, right? But there were a decent number of them. But I needed them to see that not only can you have made some mistakes or done some things you're not 100% proud of, right? But you can still have greatness on the other side. And so he was there as a lawyer, as a representation of that could be you. And I want you to talk to him after he talks to y'all so you can see what he did to get there, right? What were his next steps? How did he overcome XYZ pitfall to then make the next moves to get there? Because if, like you said, if they don't have someone that they can talk to ask those questions, they don't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we can say all day, well, they can just get an education and try XYZ. But if I'm not sure that it's possible, because I've seen somebody and I've taught somebody who's done it, who is like me, who has a similar background to me, that can relate to me, then I as an adult to this day, there are women that, and I talk about it even in my acknowledgments in this book, like Dr. Ison that was on here. I didn't think she always said, "You such a smart little black girl," and I'd be like, "For real?" But those things told me, yeah, I could be an assistant principal discipline. Having someone that was in this role before me she did all of K-12, like I mentioned, made me feel like, yes, I can do this. And when I talked to my black males, that was why I said they end up normally wanting to be a job or a profession of someone they know, because they say, okay, I've seen what he drives, or I've seen the successful family he has, and that's what I want to do. And I can talk to him and he can tell me, well, this is what I majored in, or this is the tech school I went to, or this is how I went to the Air Force and got XYZ ranking. I'm in an Air Force town. And so those things, like you said, are attainable and tangent, because someone who looks like me, who has done it, is going to talk to me, and we can have the conversation. I had a school that used to have, I can't think of the name of it, but they had the NSBE group come in, which is the National Society of Black Engineers. And I happened to have been in that in college. I wasn't even an engineer major, but I thought they were cool. We had a lot of classes together. But they had a group that would come and work with young students after school. And when I tell you, seeing some of those black men there talk to those kids, work through STEM projects, work through, just figuring things out, and being able to have natural conversations, and not even always about science, right? Not even always about math or STEM that they were learning, but just day-to-day conversations that made them real people, that made it feel like, oh, okay, this is not a foreign object. This is not something that's unattainable for me. That means so much, because it allows them the opportunity to dream, right?
Yeah.
And then to have, again, another piece of motivation to say, okay, I got a game plan. I'm gonna do this. I know that if I, and then to have personal relationships that say later on, if I need to talk to such and such, I can give them a call, or I can pick their brain. And and again, I still do that as an adult to this day. I have people I respect, and I will say, look, give me your opinion on this, because I know you've gone through this, or you've done this. And I know that I can trust you to share that with me. And so in the culturally relevant piece, again, it does really the same thing. If we make it relevant to them and what their lived experiences are, then they see this is not something that is only for other kids. This is not something that only kids that have, experienced XYZ can be successful in, because you're as a teacher or as an instructor are making it relevant to me in my life. And now I have an application in which to grasp onto. I really want to know that. So I'm gonna do all I can to figure that out, because it means something to me. And I think that sometimes it takes work, right? And sometimes, that's the scary part of it. It takes talking to kids. That, like I said earlier with Brianna, with Bree, I just enjoyed talking to students. Um, you know, Keeman came to the book signing thing too. I remember talking to those kids so much to where I knew everybody's business
That's
in the
right.
school.
That's right.
But I also knew them, right? And I knew I can pick up, and it's hard to say a lot of tangible things, but I could pick up small nuggets of, you remember when you told me, that you were trying to figure out XYZ that was happening. This is the same thing, right? I can use those small pieces because I've had enough conversations that they just naturally come to me. And then when I'm planning something instructionally, I can pull from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. We just about at the end, but you sent me those talking points
Yeah.
that I ask all my guests, and then I start creating all these questions, and I go well beyond where I should have gone. So what I want to do, we probably addressed all of your talking points, right? But what I want to do is I want to put each one on the screen
Okay.
individually. So on 3 of the 4, they only give us 200 characters on StreamYard, so I got to read those off my notes. But all I want you, if there's anything you want to add to what's in the talking point in terms of summary, then I want you to do so. So we got 4 of these, fam. Stay with us. We're almost done. Let me read this. It says Black males already bring brilliance, curiosity, leadership, and capacity into our schools. Our responsibility as educators is to create learning environments that recognize their identities, remove barriers, and support their success. What are you saying to us, and anything you want to add to it?
Listen, the point is simple here. Don't discount our babies.
Yeah.
Don't go with what somebody has told you, what they've experienced, what a stereotype is. Know that they are brilliant, just as brilliant as any and everybody else. And to go in with that mindset of, I need to just make sure my environment nurtures what they are already bringing to the table, and really not limiting them. That's my main thing with that. It's our responsibility to recognize, like I said earlier, what their strengths are, what they're bringing to the table, and then how we can hone in on those to bring all those pieces to the forefront.
Love it. Let's go to this next one. I got no follow up. You said when Black males are seen beyond discipline data, stereotypes, and deficit narratives, schools are better positioned to affirm who they are and respond to what they need academically, socially, and emotionally.
Yeah, similar to, like you said, what we talked about earlier. If we ignore um, what it looks like it could be, and really dig down into figuring out what they need, uh, academically, socially, and emotionally, then we are going to see change in a positive way. It's going to move beyond just what we may think or assume in some situations, and because they come from XYZ neighborhood or this side of town, right? We've got to make sure that we are doing our job, um, to give them those components in place that's going to really nurture, like I said, changing the narrative, because it's being done in a number of places. But until certain buildings and certain districts and situations change that thinking, we're going to keep getting the same thing.
Very good. Very good. Let's go to number 3. School leaders shape equity through the questions they ask, the classrooms they observe, the data they prioritize, and the expectations they set for how Black males experience school each day. Floor is yours.
I think I touched on a lot of them. I will say this, I said earlier, I haven't cried in a while, and I get emotional about my children and students. And so for me, the biggest way to get me upset is to tell me what those kids can't. That is my, that's my hot button, right? Because those expectations, they change the whole culture. I have seen places where that is the norm, that they just feel the expectations are so low, and they are not making both the children and the educators in that building rise to those expectations. They've got to set them high, and because if we keep setting them where they are, nothing's gonna change, right? We've got to make them higher, and we've got to live up to that as an expectation, not just say, well, I'm gonna make this a little easier for this group of students. No, we're gonna make it higher, but we're gonna also give them the tools. We're not gonna let them fail. We're gonna also give them the tools to support all those things in place to then make them rise to it, and they'll keep rising once we start them to rise.
Good stuff. One more. Here we go. The work of improving outcomes for Black males requires more than good intentions. It requires intentional relationships, culturally responsive instruction, student voice, high expectations, and systems that make belonging visible. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I think again, it really is just about just having the willpower to do something different. I don't know if willpower is the right word, but just wanting to see a change, right? We've got to say, we can't just say, oh yeah, we want to get our data to look different here. We want to really look in on those Black males, but we've got to say, yes, we have that intention, and this is how we're all going to play a role in getting them there. This is how we're all going to be a part of moving everybody in that right direction. And it's going to take us honing in on, okay, what is it they need? But again, it can't just be a good intention. It's always got to be something that we strategize and say, we're going to put, if I've got to have a specific focus in my building to say, this is how we're going to start building these relationships, because some of us need to, we're not that great at that. And I wasn't in the beginning either, but this is how we're going to do that. Then if I got to put something in place and say, okay, now we're going to move to culturally responsive instruction. Then now we're going to do, you know what I mean? We got to put all those components moving in the right direction so that everybody can thrive.
Love it. Good stuff. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you. Likewise.
Oh yeah. Now we put the icing on the cake. I have these, I call this my rapid fire.
Okay.
These are questions that they're gonna come at you real quick, and all I need from you is a one sentence or one word. If you find yourself inserting a comma, it is too long, and I might have to sound the buzzer.
Okay.
Right. So this is rapid fire. We call these the BAM impact questions. So here we go. Do you feel that there's 20, by the way? Do you feel that education is currently on the right path for underserved children?
In some places.
Do you feel that true equity can occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Certainly.
Does Dr. Tonya Woolfolk's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Prayerfully so.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
No, it's been the best thing ever.
Why do you continue to do this work?
I'm constantly fulfilled.
What fires you up particularly within the work that you do?
Seeing lives change, really. Seeing lives change.
What do you dislike about the work you do?
Stubbornness.
What has been your greatest victory in the work you do?
Relationships with children.
What was your greatest mistake in the work you do?
Not speaking up when I was too scared when I was a younger educator.
Hmm. What has been your greatest challenge in the work you do?
Getting people as riled up and as passionate as I am.
Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Well, I was, yes. I haven't been one in a while, but yes,
No, but just
I'm
going
very
back
proud of it.
because of the audience.
Yes.
Who inspires you in your work?
Whew. All of you authors, in particular you, I will say, and this is not just because I'm on with you, who are unafraid. Like I said earlier, that was one of my biggest things I regretted. Just being unapologetically, I'm gonna say this because it needs to be said.
I
And people like you, other authors, those are the people I feel like
appreciate you.
I admire.
What book would you recommend for the fam out there this afternoon?
I mean, well, of course, mine. Uh,
That's it. Put it up. Go to
yes.
Amazon right now, y'all. That's good. No, that's fine right there. Unless you had another one you wanted to recommend, that's fine. That's the one they need to get right now. What do you want to accomplish that you have not accomplished yet?
Ooh, I want to. This is big and audacious, but I've always dreamed of having a school that could implement those actual things that I feel like would really work and not be afraid to do it.
I love it. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
No, I think there's always growth, room for growth.
There you go. Is there another gear to your leadership, or are you at peak performance now?
I'm always shifting. No, I'm ready for the next gear.
What would you say to an assistant principal out there who continues to face closed doors to either the principalship or their next level, whatever that is they desire to do?
Yeah, I have this conversation actually quite a bit. I would say keep doing what you're doing at another level, right? So I'll continue to learn and grow from everything you're experiencing, and that's going to be what gets you where you need to go.
Good stuff. What would you say to an assistant principal? Oh, no, I'm sorry. What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership passion?
Hmm. I would say tap into other people who you see are passionate, and try to figure out what's sparking that in them.
Hmm. What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership confidence?
Hmm. Go back and reflect on the positives that you've done, the change that you've made, because I'm sure they're there. You're just only looking at the other side of it.
That's right. And finally, if Dr. Tonya Woolfolk was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
I would say catalyst.
Mm, I like
Yeah.
that. Catalyst.
Science word too. Catalyst.
Let me be the first to applaud you on a great conversation this morning,
Thank you.
this afternoon. Great stuff. To the fam out there, I see you already started, but for those who are new to the platform, the way we applaud our guests on the platform is just give us your favorite emojis. Give us a series of them. As you see, the fam has already started. Just give us those emojis. But that's if today's session resonated with you, if it was useful to you, if you could infuse some of what you heard, if not all of what you heard, into your work. If you just liked it or loved it, then just give us your favorite emojis. And I'm going to get my favorite emoji. I don't type mine, I hold mine. It's a Louisville Slugger baseball bat to go with my alternate Brooklyn Royal Giants Negro League
Love it. Love it.
team jersey. Bam, you hit it out the park. Grand slam style every time
Thank
it
you.
came up to the plate. So great stuff, great stuff, great stuff. Hey Doc, how do the folks get in touch with you so that they can either just engage with you, but more importantly, bring you out so that you can do some consulting with them, some speaking with them, whatever it is that you do? How do they reach you?
So you can find me. I have a website, educationwithcharacter.com. I am now on social media. I'm still working on it. But I have on Facebook, particularly LinkedIn, though probably is my favorite at the moment. And that's how you can reach me.
So you're,
Info at educationwithcharacter.com.
so you're a Dr. Tonya Woolfolk on you got, is it the doctor, is that part of your name on LinkedIn?
I think it's just Tonya Woolfolk,
Okay.
PhD on LinkedIn.
Oh, okay. All right. So you got that, folks, and then give your website one more time.
Educationwithcharacter.com, and my contact tabs are on there too.
All right, so you all got all that, and then you can go to Amazon here. I guess you can go to Corwin Press if they sell, right? Yeah,
they got it on Corwin, and I will be at their annual Visible Learning Conference next Thursday. I'm presenting. My title is "When Learning Loses Its Rhythm: Making Hope Visible to Amplify Student Success." So I will be presenting there. It's just a campfire conversation, much like today. So that'll be at noon Central Time. If you are there, you can come see me.
And they'll have books there. Where's that going to be this year?
It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think we'll be overlapping actually a day or so, because you said you'll be there next week. But
yeah, I'll be there the 15th.
Yep. It'll be in the bookstore too at the conference. So
very good. If you all are going to that particular conference, and you'll see the Visible Learning Conference, you'll see Dr. Woolfolk there. Go stop by and chat with her. They blessed me with I was the opening keynote at that conference last year in Vegas at the MGM Grand. So they blessed me with that.
I fangirled and came up to you at the end.
Oh man. Now you got me embarrassed, because I should have remembered that. I meet a million people.
I know.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you. But that was a blessing for me to be in that hotel on that stage at that conference. So John Hattie and all that kind of thing. Yeah. So folks, do me a favor, stay on even after when I go off. Okay. Folks, let me say to you all, to the fam out there, appreciate you being here on this tired Saturday morning, man. I was out for 5 days, y'all, and I'm out for 5 next week. So but I'm here. Nothing stops me. Like I said, I did this with COVID last year, I think it was. So nothing stops me, man. We get it done one way or the other. So I tell you what, fam, join me next Saturday, week number 325 live. My guest will be here for her 3rd time, instructional coaching guru, Nicole Turner. Right. So join me for Nicole Turner, as I don't think there's no one else out there that's doing it at the level that she's doing it as a consultant, as it relates to instructional coaching. Right. So join me for a big conversation next week at 11 o'clock. But while you're at it, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, Facebook Live and YouTube Live for all 4 of these. Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock. He might not be on next week. I'm not sure, but but most of the time he is, right? 10:30, Create and Educate with Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor. That's Create and Educate. 11 o'clock, us, AP and New Principals Academy, hosted by myself, and again with Nicole Turner. And then and we call ourselves Super Saturday. But then we round it out to Sunday with my brother, PGP Podcast, Principal Josh Tovar, and Dr. Madi Moreno. That's 6 o'clock, Facebook Live and YouTube Live, right? Don't forget, if you don't have copies of my the book, these are the 2 that coincide with the platform. The What is My Value? Instructionally to the Teachers I Supervise, and the Assistant Principal 50. If you don't have copies, get yourself both copies. Go to Amazon right now or ascd.org. But while you're there, you'll notice that I have 8 other books that are published by ASCD. If you're so inclined, get those as well, right? But most importantly, get this first, right? Hope and Focus, right? Get this first, right? This is what we discussed today. We were just in the introduction, right? There's so much there, we need a whole day or more, right? If those of you are going to be at NAESP this week, National Association of Elementary School Principals, join me on the 14th, this Tuesday. I'll be doing 2 sessions there, featured and a regular. And then at SREB on July 15th in Nashville, go to sreb.org, and for NAESP, naesp.org. But it's probably late in the game to be giving you those websites. If you're going to be there, you're already registered, I'm sure. So if you're going to be there, join me at SREB on the 15th. I don't know what my times are. You look at the app, and I'll be doing 2 sessions there. Make sure you subscribe to the AP New Principals Academy and be a part of the 25,600 subscribers. We're almost at 25,700, so make sure that you subscribe. Don't just go to the channel, but subscribe. And if you haven't seen all 324 sessions, they're all there. right? They're all there with our fabulous guests that we've had over the past 6 years. And that 324, I didn't say it this morning because I forgot, probably because I'm tired, but that's 324 sessions consecutively. We haven't missed a session in 324 Saturdays, right? Visit principalkafele.com for additional resources. And then lastly, your diet, your exercise, and your virus precautions, man. I was on that plane the other day, and my man behind me was not well, right? So we just went right into that bag and masked up, right? I said, gotta mask up, and you know, you do it in front of people, but hey, you know, it's not like it's someone you know. You just on a flight with them, and once you get off, I'll never see you again in life, probably. So, you know, so if that's embarrassing, so be it. At least I can live to tell the story, because no telling what you coughing over, right? So, yeah. So I got like 10 masks in my bag, right? So you gonna start that, and I'm gonna tell you something else, y'all. Y'all always know I got something to say before I close out. A lot of these folks on these planes, man, you know, I ain't gonna be specific with it. I'm just gonna say folks, right? A lot of these folks on these planes, nobody trained them to cover their mouths. They ain't thinking about covering their mouth. They just let that junk go, right? And I haven't experienced, to my knowledge, someone doing it sitting next to me. But if you do it sitting next to me, we might make an Instagram video together, right? We just might be in one of them you know, them fight videos on the planes. That might be my seatmate and I, right? So I shouldn't be saying that publicly. I'm saying it facetiously, y'all, right? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I got to be in that predicament, and then I'll make a decision, right? But you can't. I mean, you can't do that, because that's that's potentially deadly. You sitting there, man. Them folks, because I see them, man. I see them, but they're not sitting right next to me. When I see them, man, they just cough, right? Or they might be with 3 seats across. It might not be the middle person, but it's the one on the aisle, right? I see it, right? So, but if you right next to me, we shoulder to shoulder, man, you might see me on IG going viral. I'm just playing, right? So anyway, y'all, I appreciate you being here. I'll see you next Saturday at 11 o'clock. Other than that, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Flip it. Peace. Thumbs up. Now cock that fist back all the way and count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I'll see y'all next Saturday.